All right, well, we're starting a brand new book today, the book of Colossians. This is another letter that Paul wrote to the Colossae church, and basically he starts off by saying to this church, look, we're praying for you, we're thinking about you, we've heard a lot of great things about everything that you're doing and that you've done in the city, and basically you're just in our prayers. And then he goes on in the beginning of chapter 1, verses 15, to kind of talk about Christ a little bit and what Christ has done for everyone, for all of us in the whole world. And he just explains it. So let's look at that. Chapter 1, verse 15. This is what it says. He is the image of an invisible God, talking about Christ, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. And I just think that's an interesting thought right there, to think that Jesus created everything. Everything in heaven on earth was created for him and by him. And sometimes we get caught in this mode that says only God created, but it says right here that Paul is writing, it said Christ was there too. He's been there forever. He created everything. Since the beginning of time, he was doing it. I mean, it's Jesus, for him and by him. And then it talks about God a little bit in this next part in verse 19. This is what I really want you guys to get. Verse 19, it says, for God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, in Christ, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. And he's saying he reconciled us back to Christ, back to God, because Jesus died on the cross. His blood reconciled. You see, because if we stood before God, we'd need to be perfect. I mean, we'd have to be exactly perfect, and in our own bodies and our own flesh, that's impossible. But when Jesus died on the cross, he made us righteous. For he who knew no sin became sin on our behalf. He reconciled us to the Father, to God. This is what the next part says, verse 21. Once you were alienated from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior, but now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, get this, without blemish and free from accusation. Without blemish and free from accusation. You know, sometimes we come before God in our own prayer times and those different kind of things, and we think, God, I'm just not good enough for you to love me. I'm just not good enough to even pray to you right now, because I just got all these things. And he's saying, you know what? Jesus Christ reconciled you when he died on that cross. And when you asked him into your heart, you were reconciled to the Father, to have no blemishes, be free from all of that stuff. And so now you can come to God with a clean conscience and know that Jesus, when he died on that cross, cleansed it all away.
Oh, my